Well, we know that the virus was a big story behind the supply chain snags. Factories shut down, ports were clogged during the Delta and the Omicron waves. But there are open questions now about the impact of Russia and Ukraine, something that Jay Powell, one of the world's top policymakers over at the Federal Reserve, is flagging. Take a listen to what he said about the issue yesterday.
The other thing is that you're seeing supply chain issues around shipping and around, lots of countries and companies and people not wanting to touch Russian goods. So that's going to be more tangled supply chains. So that could actually push out the relief we were expecting on supply chains generally.
Let's get some more perspective on someone with their ear to the ground in the supply chain world. That is Johannes Schlingmeier, Container xChange co-founder and CEO. Yahoo Finance's Dani Romero also joins us for this conversation. Johannes, thanks so much for jumping on the show this morning. First of all, it's my understanding that your company is a platform that really kind of tracks a lot of global supply chain movement. Give us an explanation of what you're seeing on that front, not just in response to some of the shutdowns that we're seeing in China that are COVID-induced, but also now the geopolitical lockups that could be happening in Eastern Europe with the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, I think I can just echo Mr. Powell. What everyone expected of 2022 to be the year of relief is most likely not going to happen to supply chains globally. I think if you look at supply chains, really what matters is, like in any industry, is supply and demand on transportation capacity. And we haven't seen any dip on demand yet across the world. So we're really looking at the supply side of things. And any hiccup to the supply side of supply chains really is reducing the effective capacity in the market, is reducing the effective container, ships, railroad, rail car, etc. capacity. And if we look at what we've seen, we're coming already from a very strained time since COVID started. Chinese New Year was just over, and then the war started. Effectively, all of that taking out capacity because ships have to take detours, containers stay longer in the ports. And hence we see a massive decrease in available capacity, which of course results in hikes in prices for containers and transportation capacity.
And Johannes, it's Dani here. Shenzhen shut down on Monday, which is the massive port, the fourth largest in the world. And now there are reports that the city will be allowed to reopen. How are you reading this? What does that really translate to shipping and the trucking rate of costs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the very short-term impact is going to be very limited because the Shenzhen port has still been operational. Essentially, what's been closed is the factories and land transportation in the background. But since ports and ships were still full, we don't see any immediate effect of that. And if you look at the US side of things, it's going to take another 5 to 7 weeks until you really see an impact, because that's how long the ships take until they are offloaded. So that's the very short-term impact. Slightly later, because the factories have been closed, there will be somewhat of, I don't know, you call it bullwhip effect or so, because things that have been ordered now need to be produced and kind of caught up, and hence kind of adding to the backlogs that may have then been slightly lessened over the next couple of weeks.
Can you speak specifically around the Black Sea, just the bottlenecks going on there, or what we could see in regards to that?
Yeah, I think what we've seen in the Black Sea is that, Ukrainian ports are closed. I think there's still cargo going in and out of Georgia. That's at least what my latest understanding is. Overall, when it comes to kind of global supply chains, the importance of the Black Sea is to some extent limited. But since shipping lines, you can almost consider them as almost like a bus with fixed stops. So whatever port is kind of removed from that lane will just cause ripple effects across the whole journeys or across the whole supply chains.
And a follow up to that. So the Russian invasion of Ukraine has really disrupted agricultural trade and production. How much flexibility, does the global food supply chain really have right now?
I guess there's two sides to that. So where can you actually get the grain from? I think my understanding is that Ukraine and Russia together account for 40% of global grain production or something in that magnitude. So that's kind of the bigger issue. Can you get that from somewhere else? And I doubt that that's the case. When it comes to supply chains, I think they are quite resilient and they can quickly shift to other places. I'm less concerned there. The bigger question is there actual other supply somewhere else?
All right. Well, Johannes Schlingmeier, Container Exchange co-founder and CEO, alongside our very own Yahoo Finance's Dani Romero. Thanks so much for that conversation.